So hey everyone, and this is going to be a little different. So this is our full-time Airstream Solar, 7 days of solar, and I'm going to do something really different today. So what am I doing really different today? I'm recording this at night. So why am I recording it at night? The sun is just going down right now, and I'm going to walk you through how much power different devices in the Airstream draw. I'm going to do that right over here. I have my remote controller for my charge controller. And so when I plug something in, when the sun is down and I've got no power coming in here, when I plug something in, it is going to affect the readout on that controller. So you're going to see firsthand how much power my Macbook Pro takes and the external monitor, or my Dyson Hepa filter, and all sorts of other little devices. We're going to plug them in, we'll unplug them, and we're going to see the difference in power with each change. So, welcome to the back of the Airstream, and nothing weird. So, this is the back of the Airstream, and my goodness, I just looked at myself on the camera, and I am super red. I was out mountain biking for the day, and then sitting outside and enjoying less wind here in Anza Borrego, and I definitely got fried for it. So, okay, I'm going to show you a little what went on today, earlier in the day, and then we're going to talk through some power usage.
In the night we were wild, we were golden. Sparks and embers fly wherever we were going. Fire and ice, we built our lives on survival. Getting past the fault lines, we're running, your hand in mine. Freedom, the song we're humming. You can't stop a storm from coming. One look, it all comes rushing. Wolves cry and lightning strikes. Dark sky and thunder rumbling. You can't stop a storm from coming.
Alright, we're back. I hope you enjoyed some of the touring around Borrego. God, I'm just looking at the screen here again, and I gotta say, I got fried today. So, this is what happens in the desert between the wind and the sand and the sun. So, I'm at the back of the Airstream, and not too exciting of a scene, but I have my GoPro set up here, and we're gonna go take a look really quick. So, I'll be switching over to the GoPro. I'll be back and forth with the GoPro, but I'm just I've got the GoPro pointed right at my control panel. So I'm going to hop up here for a sec, and we're going to take a look. So let's start the recording. And right now, I'm at negative 2.5 amps per hour. So I've got some lights on in here, and I've got some items plugged in to the power system right now, up negative 2.5 to negative 2.6. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to, I've got my inverter right over here, and my Dyson Hepa filter is hooked to it, and my iPad is actually charging on this as well. I'm just going to turn the inverter on. So I haven't plugged anything else in, but the inverter is on. So let's take a look again here. So I just went from negative 2.5 amps per hour to negative 3.2. So 0.7 amps. So get this, just turning on the inverter has now started draining 0.7 amps per hour on me. So that's sizable. So the next thing I'm going to do is move right around here, and I am just going to turn on my Hepa filter. So let's see. There we go. So I just turned on the Hepa filter. to a setting of 3, and it goes up to 10. So let's take a look at the... Okay, so I am now at negative 3.5 amps per hour. So by turning on the inverter and the HEPA filter, I have started consuming an additional 1 amp per hour. Now I'm going to crank the HEPA filter up to 10, and we are now at negative 7.8 amps per hour. So I'm draining 7.8 amps an hour from my 150 amp hours of usable electricity, DC electricity. So 5 amps an hour if I have the Dyson on high. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that back down. Actually, I'm going to turn it off. And so the Dyson can take 5 amps an hour. Pretty crazy. I'm going to go ahead and turn that inverter off. And now that the inverter's off, I'm going to go take a look again at, okay, there we are. We're back at negative 2.5 amps per hour with the lights on and the couple of items that I have charging. So what's my next step? I'm going to run up front really quick, and I'm going to turn on the inverter up front, and we are going to see what my MacBook Pro, which isn't fully charged, so it needs a charge, and my ViewSonic monitor, how much they consume when I turn on that front inverter. So here we go. We're going up to the front of the Airstream, and I need to wake my Macintosh up, so a little bit of a boring spot here. Okay, and let's go ahead and kick that on. So now, the ViewSonic, so now I've got my extra monitor and my Macintosh on together, and I'm coming back here. So hello, I'm sorry if you were bored looking at the bedroom area. Okay, so we went from negative 2.5 to negative 8.5. So right now I am consuming 6 amps per hour, charging my MacBook Pro, running my MacBook Pro, and running my external monitor. So there's 2 examples. If I were to turn on the HEPA filter right now and crank it up to 10, we're going to be using well over 10 amps per hour. We know that we jacked it up by, I think, at least 6 amps per hour before. So the 2 items together, over 10 amps per hour, what does this all mean? Okay, let's say I just wanted to leave the computer and the monitor on for the evening. So that is 6 amps per hour plus the other draws that I have. So right now, once again, we're using 8.5 amps an hour. Let's throw away the 0.5 for a moment. Let's just call it 8 amps an hour. And let's say that I leave those on all night. I go to bed, I sleep for a while, and let's say 10 hours later, okay? So 8 amps per hour times 10 hours is 80 amps of my batteries used. I've got 150 amps available. That will be using up half of my usable battery plant. So as you can see, turning on just a couple of devices really does start drawing down your battery reserves. So that's why I said in the previous episode that if you're going to charge items, charging items during the day when you've got all of that power feeding in to recharge your battery plant and the excess power that might be generated by your solar panels, the best time of day for recharging things, bigger things, is going to be during, high sun. And during the evenings, you need to think, strongly about what devices you should and shouldn't be using if you're operating on a small battery plant like me. Now, I know of other installations where people are doing lithium-ion batteries where they can use up to 80%, so 80% usable capacity instead of 50% like me with my AGMs. And I know that they've got 600 amp hour plants and 800 amp hour plants, and I've even I've been privy to a 1200 amp hour plant where you can use 80%. Drawing down 8.5 amps per hour is not a big deal in one of those installations. It's also an incredibly expensive system. So as I said before, you got to think about what it is you want to do, what it is you want to achieve. In the case of our Airstream, we're very aware of our power usage. We understand what we're drawing down when we're using the laptop, when we're using the external monitor, etc., when we're using the Hepa filter. So that awareness allows us to utilize this smaller system very effectively. And, you know, I've been living with it for 2 years now. You really do have to live with it to understand if it's going to work for you or not. So I could continue going through more and more examples of plugging in an iPhone, turning on a light. And actually, let's do that before we wrap this up. So I've got 2 lights on in here right now, and we've got the computer on. I'm going to go ahead and go back over and kill that inverter. So we're going to drop it back down really quick. So here goes the inverter, and goodbye. And now let's take a look again at our power usage here. So we're back down to, okay, now it's about 2.7 amps. So the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to turn on the light right above me. Ooh, wow. And I've got 2 more lights back here. The light above me has 2 LEDs. And they're DC powered. So now we're at negative 3.2 amps. So we went from 2.6, 2.7 to 3.2. So these 2 lights use less than 1 amp per hour. Let's go crazy and light up the Airstream. So I'm just pretty well lit. I feel like I'm in a shopping mall in the front of the Airstream. Let's turn the camera around so that you can see the shopping mall experience. So there we go. So there's our shopping mall experience. Very light, very bright. Okay, so we turned on all the lights. Before we were at somewhere between 2.5 and 2.6 amps per hour being drawn down. With all these lights on, we are now at, let's just round it up and call it 5.5. So 3 additional amps per hour if I was scared of the dark and I needed all of my lights on in the Airstream at night. So I'm not often scared of the dark, but it happens sometimes. You know, happens to everybody, especially if you've got a bobcat milling around outside your door, which I've had happen before. So what you've seen here, just flipping on a couple of lights, 3 more amps per hour. Over a 10-hour period, let's say, you know, bedtime, over a 10-hour period, we're talking about 30 amps out of my 150 amps available. Now, if we were to be charging the laptop, if we were running the external monitor, if I decided to turn the Dyson Hepa filter on, I could probably easily break my usable 150 amps of storage overnight. So that's why I have to be selective, and I have to do smart things like turn off the lights and not charge the big ticket items in the evenings.